Hi everyone, it's Vaishali, and here I am today with Aarna, who is a high school junior at Prospect High School and has been running her podcast channel, Aarna's News, since the sixth grade, with over 3,000 listeners and 50 countries tuned in with interviews by brilliant professionals in STEM to bridge the gender gap. She's also currently writing a book from Priceless Publishing to encourage these insights to high school students and college students with soft skills that aren't necessarily taught in a formalized classroom. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Vaishali, for letting me be here today. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Amazing. So yeah, my first question for you is what specific goals and aspirations drive the work that you engage in?
I'll talk a little bit about the story of how my podcast actually started. For reference, I'm from the Bay Area. So I went to a school in Cupertino, prime Bay Area, where STEM was always encouraged, regardless of anyone's background, gender. Everybody liked science, everybody liked math. And then I moved to a school not even 5 minutes away in San Jose, which I guess you could categorize it as a little bit ghetto. Nobody really cared about no it look no it makes sense, like nobody really cared about their education, and my female friends at the time thought, STEM was really nerdy. They didn't like science. And I was like, okay, why are my old friends not liking the same things as my current friends, and why can't I share any of these things with my friends? This was coincidentally the year of COVID, and I come from a family of software engineers. So I just reached out to some of my family's connections who were like also women in STEM, and I heard their stories on how they were encouraged because I wanted to share my passion to my friends. And I heard some really good insights. Like, I was just on calls and I thought that what I learned was really, really helpful. So I started to share that out with my friends, and slowly they became recorded interviews. And that kind of just shaped my podcast channel. And I think it's really, really important to realize like where and what you start from, like why you're doing something, like what your mission is. For me, it was to encourage my friends, like just my peers, to be more proactive in STEM if they wanted to, because we didn't have that many classes offered, like electives. Like later on, that kind of fruition into a much bigger channel where I encourage STEM to people on the national level.
Wow, amazing. Could you share a deeply personal or impactful story that inspired your involvement? As you mentioned, seeing the differences amongst your friend groups, what really brought you to really expand on the channel?
Yeah, like I kind of realized that all of these insights, they shouldn't only be subjected to one place, because like Bay Area, like regardless of where you are, like STEM is really prominent, Silicon Valley, like there's so many different, like it's insane. But I realized that with the insights I'm getting, like I've been interviewing professionals from not even California. They've been from India, they've been from Germany, they've been from places around the world, and I realized that if I'm getting this information from the entire like planet, then I might as well share that with more people. And once I started to publicize this on Instagram and LinkedIn, I got a lot of like feedback and growth, and I was like, people actually want to listen to this, so I might as well open it up and expand and try to do my best to share this information with others. Because at the time, there weren't really that many like student-led podcasts or like initiatives like these. So I was like, okay, if I can share this with people and they actually want to listen to it and they have a demand for it, then I guess it's my duty to do so. So that's pretty much what inspired me.
And I guess, like, what is your opinion on the growing numbers of women in STEM and basically, like, with current events happening in the White House, right, with the Department of Government Excellence expanding? What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, so like women in STEM, like the percentages has gone up. Like in the past couple of years, it's still relatively lower than what we'd want to see, but there has been a lot of improvements, and I think that's really, really good. It just said that there's more room to improve, of course. A lot of my peers, because I'm currently a junior, so college app season, all of that. A lot of my friends, they think that doing STEM or computer science, because it's like so stereotypical to be very, very hard, it is a very hard major. They kind of like deter themselves from that. And I think like it's still my goal to be like, okay, sure, it might be hard, but it's so much fun. There's so many benefits. There's like good pay, there's everything. There's so many, like, we're in the Silicon Valley, so you might as well. And I think because a lot more guys, a lot more males, they want to pursue STEM. It kind of deters more girls my age. But like with these initiatives, like I'm the president of my school society of women engineers. I founded that freshman year. So we've had a bunch of events where I bring really, really cool women over to my school. I think by having more events like these, they really encourage at least the peers at my school to be like, okay, this is possible. This is a good avenue for you to take, and here are the resources. So I think what we've been doing so far is great, but there's always room for more improvement.
And along with, is you mainly your audience from America or maybe from across the world? Like how do you think your podcast and your work through Society of Women Engineers has impacted women in different countries as well?
Yeah, so I haven't checked my stats in quite a bit, but the last time I did, majority was from America. I think I hit 30 of the states, which is pretty crazy. And then the second country was India, which is great. And then I think it was Australia and then Germany. So like I've had approximately 50 countries tune in, which is crazy. And something that I'm really, really proud of is 60% of them are actually females. So 40% are males. So it's going to the right audience. And in terms of like my Society of Women Engineers like club, we've had around 90 members in our club. So it's huge like growth in the past 3 years. We've had a couple of guest speaker events. So we're actually planning ours for the end of March this year. So we'll have like three really cool women catering, all of that. Last year we had it. It was a huge success. It was our first one. We definitely have a lot of involvement at our school, but also like kind of worldwide. It kind of goes back with social media, my LinkedIn account, Instagram. So many people request to be featured on my podcast. So and they're pretty like cool. They're from around the world. So I think that what I've been doing has a good impact and a lot of people are interested in, more women in STEM ideals.
That's wonderful. And when reflecting on your work, what are some of the most formidable challenges you've encountered and how have you navigated through them?
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell another story here. So my first interview I took with Nana Janashia. She's such a cool woman. She has like a huge presence on YouTube because she's basically like a teacher for DevSecOps. And at the time, like it was I think 2020 and I was so nervous. I had such a big fear of public speaking. And like public speaking like on stage is generally very very hard, but like just talking like this on Zoom or on Riverside, like it was so scary that I needed my mom in the same room. Like I needed her to hold my hand in the same room, not even have like this recording, but I was afraid that like something on Zoom would work. So she had to record it on her like voice memos on her phone. So just like that fear of like talking to someone older than me who had more experience. And I thought that like I wasn't fit to talk to these people and just like my own internalized fear. Those were some things that I had to like navigate. But after talking with like so many people, like you and me, like this is fun to me. And I realized that I shouldn't be afraid of public speaking because at the end I'm like making so many connections and so many friendships. So that was initially really really hard for me, and then I slowly realized that okay, that is the fear, but I can definitely move on from that and try to do something that makes me happy.
Yeah, definitely. I actually for me as well, I started this podcast just for fun. I was originally focused on Carajano, which was, focused on helping the underserved population. And it started off with interviewing foster care centers. And then it slowly developed into, as you mentioned, like innovators, entrepreneurs, researchers. So I think, it just once you start talking to more people, you get to learn more about their background stories. And I'd say it also helps you develop leadership skills and industry knowledge. So, I guess, what are some insights on how you developed, I guess, like how has the podcast helped you?
Like in terms of like being more like I feel like I've definitely like gained confidence. Like I can like talk to people like and I'm not really afraid of that. So definitely talking to people is like number one. I've realized that it's something that I genuinely enjoy doing. Like it brings me joy. Like just as like singing and dancing brings me joy, like talking to people like this also brings me joy. So that's like a personal insight I've learned from my podcast. Some other tips that I've learned is like always cold message, cold email people. Like, you never know what's gonna happen. Like, if you shoot like maybe 50 messages on LinkedIn or through mail, you're bound to get at least one response. And that's basically just how my podcast started. I just like sent a couple messages on a whim, and I was like, okay, this is probably not gonna go anywhere, but let's see. And then I got responses, and then from those responses, these women forwarded me to other people, and then they forwarded me to other people, and then it just became a cycle. So like, don't be afraid of asking for help or just like shooting your shot. And I learned a lot of other insights, but unfortunately I cannot share them right now because they are going to be in my book, and that is scheduled to come out in a couple of months, and it's been going pretty good.
That's amazing, yeah. And I think also like, through the journey, right? Especially being in the tech industry, have you noticed any like dilemmas that currently do occur for women in tech or other like STEM designated fields and um persevere to like change any of these challenges?
Yeah, so there's two things that I want to like shed light upon. Like, there's the whole thing about like retaining women in tech. Like, it's hard for a lot of like senior women and more experienced people to get better roles, so it's harder for them to be retained there. But there have been a lot of efforts for like coaches and a bunch of more like internalized improvements to be like, okay, you've had this much experience, you deserve to be in another position. And then also for like just girls in general, like females in general who are in STEM, it's harder for them to like share their accomplishments and to do a bunch of things because we've come from a society where only men should technically like quote unquote be in like the workforce, but that's like total like it's like total bogus because like women are so like capable, we're equally as capable. So just like battling that like internalized stigma in society is like a big thing that we still have yet to overcome. Like, there are places like not even the Bay Area, like places around California, among the United States, where it's very like not that modern, not that progressive. So if we can just like share more women in STEM ideals and continue resources such as my podcast, where it kind of gives like access to role models and platforms such as that, then I think we can definitely like battle that internalized stigma.
And yeah, and especially with the patriarchal values that certain people put, and especially with, Republicans in power now, especially, I don't know. So, like, through those experiences, and with the stigmatism, how do you hope to maybe confront these complex issues or adversities throughout throughout the nation and world? Because I know there's many like countries out there, maybe like Middle East or even in just like, our, like Indian culture or somewhere where women haven't been able to get the freedom that they want. So, how do you hope to see a future where women could also attain these leadership roles and have less like dilemmas due to just their gender or any other orientation that they identify themselves as?
Yeah, so I think what my podcast has been doing is great, and I really, really want to continue this. Like, even at, like after high school, like even after college, like even when I'm in the workforce, that's something I really want to do because I think that like learning and like just talking to people should like never stop, like even after you graduate. And in terms of like helping people from like other nations, there are a bunch of like conferences that I've attended, and like there's like the Grace Hopper Convention. It's like super big, and I think that like having a presence there or just like sharing things that are very impactful can like help people realize that okay, STEM is a big place that I should be, and it's a great avenue to be in. So just like shedding light on that, and I think just like talking to people, connecting with others, like if we, because like there's this quote where like you are the five people that you surround yourself, right? You're comprised of those five people, and if you try to bring in other insights, like people from various countries, people from various backgrounds, then you realize like how much of an impact you can have. So just by surrounding yourself by different people, like say for example, like I've interviewed people from India, I've interviewed people from like literally like 2 minutes away. Like, having this perspective is insane and super transformative. I can share that same perspective and get more of that across the world, then I think that my work will reach its purpose. And I think that way a lot more people from various countries can like tune in and realize, okay, this is a place that I want to be, and here are the resources I have.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And do you have any insights on what women who are starting off their careers could do, especially for tech industry or maybe business or any line that they want to pursue? What are some key essentials that they should acquire before entering anything?
Yeah, I think like definitely having a LinkedIn account, definitely like being comfortable with posting yourself and your accomplishments is a huge, huge like advantage because a lot of people, like myself, I'm still afraid to like post myself sometimes. But being like vulnerable with that and then also just like not being afraid of a no. Like when I've interviewed like so many people and initially a lot of them said no and like it makes sense like they're always busy, but there also have been some people who just like dead said not wanting to be on my podcast and just like seeing that message they were like, "No, I don't want to be here, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay, so that's basically rejection." And then I just had to like move from that because rejection is redirection. So just realizing that like although you might get a no, that doesn't mean that you can't get a yes from someone else. So definitely that because like I know that trying to enter like CS right now is like really really hard. So never back down. Never back down, never what. But yeah, I think definitely like not being afraid of a no, of a rejection initially, because you never know. Like if you shoot 50 messages, as I've said before, maybe one of them might say yes, and that's pretty much all you need. So doing that is, I think, very, very important.
Yeah, and especially throughout the domain knowledge, right? Some people, because of the internalized stigmatism that people go through, especially with marginalized communities, um, they have certain stigmatypes where it's just like, stereotypes where it's like, oh, like Indians are better at math in a way, or, it's just kind of racist right there. So, how would you say people should approach these situations?
So I think I could talk a little bit about that myself. Like, with like the stereotype you said, like Indians are really good at math or whatever. Like when I went to my school, like in Cupertino, like elementary school, like I hated, oh my God, I hated school. I'm not even kidding. Like I genuinely didn't like it because I thought that I was too dumb. I thought I wasn't like smart enough to be around these people. Like everybody had offline tutoring like RSM, Kumon, all of that, and I didn't really have that. And so I thought that there was something wrong with me, and so I hated every single minute. Then like and so like it was like an environment switch. Like I changed and moved to San Jose, right? And I went to this school which is so amazing and I started to enjoy school, which is crazy because I would genuinely like count the minutes till like the bell rang to like I didn't like it. And then now like with high school like there's so many like clubs and organizations that like I'm a part of where I like going to school. Like not to be nerdy or whatever, but like I love meeting my friends. I'm like really grateful to see my teachers. So trying to rewire that, like especially if you're facing that like stereotype or stigma, like if you're facing that, then realize that like you have the power to like kind of shape your trajectory. Like if I stayed with that same mentality that like I didn't like learning, I didn't like school, then I would not be here today. I would not have my podcast. I would not have anything that I've done because I would be in that kind of backward mentality. But instead I opened myself up and I was like, you know what? Even though I might not like the subject, that doesn't mean I hate school. Like I love art. I love music. I love all these things. And just because I might not understand this math concept doesn't mean that I hate school. So just rewiring that, like it's definitely hard to like go around that and circumnavigate it. But if you realize that, like, as I said before, you are the only person who has a trajectory and the power to like change what you want, you have the power to do so much in your life. And I think a lot of people like forget that. But if you really want something, then go achieve it, go do it, because that's literally what you can do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, as you mentioned, like, I dealt with the same thing. Like, calculus is not easy for me in high school. And I just felt like my life was over because I wanted to enter the STEM field. And I was like, you know what? If I'm not good at this, will I be good in that field in the future? Like, that was a question just burning in my head. So, as you mentioned, right, it's really like dependent on the environment you're put in. So what are insights on some key techniques that we as women can like kind of build up this environment where, we support each other in STEM, as well as whether it be also for, just like feminism in general, like bringing up the right ideas in feminism.
Yeah, I think a big thing that people should know is that we're not alone. Like, we are not like big pioneers. Like, sure, we might be going to a new field, but we have friends. We can do this together. There are so many resources out there. Like, if you just like message someone on online, LinkedIn, or on like Twitter, Facebook, you're bound to get some response. And for me, like, I come from a family of software engineers, and this is a path I want to take, so I'm very fortunate for that. But for people who don't have that, resource in their family, it's definitely hard. But I think just allowing yourself to be connected and kind of just reaching for those opportunities yourself instead of trying for someone else to get that for you, taking that initiative is a big way that like us women can kind of pursue a path that we want to take. And I think like even if you're doing something really hard, like what I do like right before a test, like for example my AP Physics 1 class, it's like very hard, but the way that I've been able to cope with it is realizing that like I'm not the first person who's like learned physics. Like Newton did all of this. Like the class right before me took this test. Like I'm not alone. I'm doing this test with other people and realizing that like I'm not alone and I can do this. So having this mentality that like sure it's going to be hard, but I can still do it is so uplifting, and I think that's really the way that you can like get through anything.
Yeah, and I think especially there's so many resources online. Like, there's Google. There's also ChatGPT and so many AI interfaces nowadays. It's like, oh my God, the world is at your hands. So I feel like if you're trying to go into STEM, like anyone who's listening to this, there's a million opportunities available. It's really about how you utilize it. And, as you mentioned, like maybe starting your own podcast, or maybe like starting your own startup or nonprofit. Like, my last question for you is, drawing from your own journey, what invaluable insights or pearls of wisdom would you impart to individuals which are embarking on similar paths in social?
Yeah, I would say that, like, just touching up on what we've said before, like, don't be afraid to, like, ask for help. Like, I've asked for help so many times after. I know, like, in a traditional classroom, you might think, okay, if I'm gonna ask this question, it might seem like dumb or stupid. Literally, yesterday, I asked this really dumb question in my class, and, like, I'm not even kidding. Like, now that I think about it, it was very dumb, but at the same time, it wasn't dumb to me. I genuinely needed that, like, needed that answer in order for me to move on. And I'm pretty sure there were people in my class who probably also thought the same thing. So, not being afraid to ask for help when you really need it, and even when you don't, just like talking to people, that's really how you can just be the better version of yourself, because people have so much knowledge and wisdom that they can impart from themselves to you. You just have to be willing to receive that. And I think just being open to that, being vulnerable to accept it, and not being afraid to ask for help, not being fearful of a rejection, though it is hard, that initial rejection, it's gonna feel like your entire world has fallen apart. It's bad, but once you move on from that and realize that okay, rejection is redirection, and although this might have been a no, someone else is going to say yes to me, and I just have to find that. So I think those are some key wisdoms that I would like to impart to everybody else.
Amazing. Thank you for being here today, Arna. And yeah, let's stay in touch, definitely.
Thank you so much.